taking care of ourselves when you're in a flight, right? You have to put the oxygen mask on yourself. So that's really so important as teachers and parents for us to do. And then the other thing is I made a mental and actually a note to add more movement to my class. I teach third graders, and I think that's really powerful as well. Like you said, bringing them in their bodies. And we tend to get very academic sometimes with curriculum. It's so important to remember these things. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And uh, yeah, and moving on to Sevantika. So Sevantika Bhandari has 2 decades of global experience in marketing and brand building. And I'm going to read off a list here. And she has worked as the marketing and business lead across banking, insurance, lending, healthcare, and other domains in India, UK, Germany, Gulf countries, Singapore, and Hong Kong. Um, she had a very successful corporate journey that included being the director of product and marketing for Max Bupa Insurance, head of NRI business and international marketing for ICICI Bank, and brand head for Dabur. She now does selective consulting assignments with businesses, especially startups. Savantika is an avid reader, a traveler at heart, and a self-taught artist. She loves London, adores Paris, connects in spirit with Mumbai, and now chooses to live in her birthplace, Jodhpur. Which brings me to my connection with Savantika. We are both from the same, our hometown is Jodhpur. We grew up together, and we've been really good friends since ninth grade. And it's been amazing for me to follow her corporate journey. And when people asked us to cover confidence as part of this workshop on wellness, she was the person that immediately popped into my head. And that was not just because she did all these amazing things. She climbed the corporate ladder, and my friends and I, we were, secretly hoping that we'll see her name on the front lines. There are a lot of Indians, or becoming CEOs of companies and whatnot. But 3 or 4 years ago, she surprised us. She quit. She decided to follow her heart, and now she does consultancy, and she's an artist. And for me, that's an epitome of confidence, where you follow your heart. And currently, Samantika works closely with organizations to co-create unique customer propositions, solve interesting business conundrums, and provide consumer insights and consumer interfaces, new retail customer segment identification, and digital customer acquisition. In this presentation, Savantika, who's an independent, single, and confident, as the world sees her, person, she's going to share snippets from her life, work story, and she hopes that will make for an interesting talk. So, passing on the mic to Savantika.
Thank you. That introduction sounds way better than I actually am. So thank you very much. And Malavika, thank you. This was very interesting and a tough act to follow, trust me. So, I'm just going to share some parts of my life and, hope that makes sense. And basically butt in wherever. Please ask questions, interrupt. I'm very easy. This presentation is here just to anchor me. Otherwise, I can ramble. But overall, just, feel free to ask any questions. The first thing, let me tell you a little bit more about me. Jaya has done a good job of telling you what I've done, but who am I? So look at me one more time. I am a large woman in a country which celebrates petite. By the way, I must tell you, this is a very interesting story. First time I ever went to Russia, I don't know if there's anyone from Russia here. I was super thrilled. This is back in 2003, I think, or 4. I first went to Russia. And I was so happy to walk into a store and find clothes off the rack for me. And this was amazing. This was amazing. So in this country, women are supposed to be petite. So I'm not petite. Like I said, look at me. This is also a country where we celebrate married women. It is an achievement. It is almost a rite of passage or get out of jail free card or however you want to call it. So I am single in the country which celebrates marriage. So there you go. And very interestingly, when I joined the workforce, there were very few women in the workforce. So I was literally the only person in sales in this company called Dabur. And I must tell you this, I've always been this person, right? And I was never prescribed anything to wear as far as my social context, my family is concerned. So first time I went to work, I went to the rural heartland of India as part of my job. And, I thought just being appropriately dressed meant decently covered up. And it was a really big surprise for me when women were supposed to wear something and cover their head, even at work, when you go in to meet your distributors in that part of the country. So this is the context of who I am. So I joined workforce when there were very few women, large woman, single woman who rapidly talks in English, where not everybody talks in English in this country this rapidly. So let me just put it out there that I know bias, clearly understand discrimination, and so all the confidence that Jaya sees is actually at some way, trying to tell the world who I am. And that's just it. I mean, I think that is perceived as confidence. I really don't know what is perceived as confidence, but that is what is perceived as confidence. But I can tell you from personal experience, there is bias in this world. Discrimination exists. Our preconceived notions, social context make us susceptible to bias and discrimination. And it is really difficult to overcome that, to try and come up, but it is not impossible. I'm living proof. So Jaya, in the next slide, please. Jaya, next slide.
Do you see the slide now? I have changed it.
I see the same one. So I'm going to sort of, while she changes the slide, I'm going to talk about, while I'm telling you from personal experience that bias exists, what does data say? We've all heard of Lean In as the organization. So Lean In and McKinsey have commissioned a study specifically about women in workplace. It comes out every single year. I'm quoting the study from 2019 simply because this is more contextual. The studies after that are more COVID, sort of have an overarching COVID narrative to it. Very, very importantly, just like I from personal experience say that discrimination exists, 73% of women actually report discrimination at workplace. And this is, I love the term that they've used called microaggressions. And these are really simple things that you face at workplace, small things, not simple, small things that you face at workplace, which actually have a very lasting impact. It has an impact on who you are and who you evolve into. It has an impact on how you perceive the world, the professional world. It has an impact on how you perceive yourself. So you perceive your workplaces as less fair, you perceive yourself as either not good enough or not fitting in, and you plan to quit work. So these microaggressions, which are reported by 73% of women, actually have an overarching and long-lasting impact. Not me. This study says that. Next one, Jaya, please. And the top two sort of key takeouts of the study is one before. 1 in 5 women say that they are often the next one, Jaya. The next one, which has 2 bullet points, yes. Often, you're the only one at work. And this is, you guys are you look confident. You are in workplaces, which sort of exude confidence, I'm sure. But I have been in a place where I was the only woman in the room. I'm still, unsurprisingly, 2+ decades later, there is a time when I am still the only person in the room and the only woman in the room. It's really, really surprising that certain things have changed, but certain things really have stayed the same. Also, very interestingly, This study talks about how women with disabilities, women with different sexual preferences, women with different color of skin face further discrimination over and above the layer of being a woman. I can tell you, like I said, as a big single woman in this country, I face a second layer of bias and discrimination. So these are the two seminal ideas that I've taken from that study, of course, all available on the Lean In site as a resource. So just to sum up this context and this section, bias exists, I'm living proof, and studies will tell you that. As women, we have it slightly harder than men. Well, it depends on where you are, slightly or a little more than slightly harder than men. Now coming back to the only thing I know, which is my experience. The next one, please. So I don't know if, just read these statements. Have you heard any of these at workplace before? These are all actually statements I've heard. I'm always perceived more aggressive. The very fact that I'm the only woman in the room and I ask a question to a person who's presenting is perceived as aggression. And I have been actually given this feedback. Coupled with this, I'm given feedback that I need to listen more. You don't listen. The same thing in the same meeting, in the same context, if a man does, it is an interesting input. People would stop and listen. But with me, it is, or with many other women, not just with me, it is about the fact that they don't listen. If you give an opinion, the opinion is, you are perceived as opinionated. So basically what ends up happening, it is still in a lot of places an old boys club or a boys network. And most times people feel uncomfortable working with you. And as a woman, and like I said, as a big single woman, a little more uncomfortable than normal. So it's sort of every opinion comes out as criticism. I'm sure you have your own set of, I don't know if someone wants to just share, someone wants to talk about any of these statements that you've heard at workplace, just because, you were a certain gender, which really shouldn't be the case. These are, if you think of a country like India, and I've had the pleasure of working in a lot of different parts of the world, this discrimination subtly changes when you work in India versus you work in the Gulf countries. But the layers are still there. It also comes from a fundamental of how women are perceived in the social context. So this is the work context of my life. Next one, please, Jaya. So, it's very interesting, and I've always felt this. If you're a man, you make a point, and you sort of make a point vehemently, you're assertive. But if you're a woman, you're aggressive. If you're a man who makes a point in the middle of a meeting, you make good points, you have valid observations. But if you're a woman, you interject too much, you do not listen. A man, by definition, and India is a very, very, very patriarchal society. And a man exudes authority by simply being more than a man. But, and I didn't say it, it's mostly Lean In, which says women are perceived difficult to deal with. Women are, this is again the Lean In word, bitches. But this is not all bad. I'm still happy, very happy, and had great fun at work. Just giving you the context. Let me summarize and go back to my life, which is actually great fun. I want to really share with you, next one, Jaya, share with you a very interesting poem. Very, very interesting. One of the most beautiful works I've read. So I urge you to read it yourself, or I could read it out to you. She sat at the back and they said she was shy. She led from the front and they hated her pride. They asked her advice, then questioned her guidance. They branded her loud, then were shocked by her silence. When she shared no ambition, they said it was sad. She told them her dreams and they said she was mad. They told her they'd listen, then covered their ears and gave her a hug while they laughed at her fears. And she listened to all of it, thinking she should be the girl they told her to be the best as she could. Next one, please, Jaya. But one day she asked what was best for herself. instead of trying to please everyone else. These are my two most favorite lines. So she walked to the forest and stood with the trees. She heard the wind whisper and dance with the leaves. She spoke to the willow, the elm, and the pine. She told them what she'd been told time after time. She told them she felt she was never enough. She was either too little or far too much, too loud or too quiet, too fierce or too weak, too wise or too foolish, too bold or too meek. Then she found a small clearing surrounded by firs, and she stopped and she heard what the trees said to her. And she sat there for hours, not wanting to leave, for the forest said nothing, it just let her breathe. It is actually, for the first couple of years of my work life, I was actually trying very hard to fit in and trying very hard to do the right thing and change whatever was asked of me and take the feedback and, sort of look at myself and introspect. And I realized that a lot of it was making me a person who I was not comfortable with. And eventually, really, and I'll tell you a little bit about my journey when I quit it all, and you can go to the next one and stay there, Jaya. When I quit, and everybody really thought that I'm going to sort of go running into a deeper corporate career. I quit all that, and came back and a consultant, and I love to do my art and read and all of that. I really became the person who I am without trying to be the person people wanted me to be. And, it is very easy to get perceived as, it's not an act of stubborn positioning. I am changing. I am not the person I was 10 years ago. I am definitely not the person I was even 5 years ago. And I think COVID has changed each and every one of us. But I was on this path even before. So what is perceived as confidence, Sevantika? And it's a lot of people tell me that I'm confident. And most times, by the way, let me share a secret. I don't feel confident at all. But it's really, I'm just trying to be the best I can. I'm a complete work in progress. I think I will die a work in progress because there's so many things I want to do. There's so many things I want to learn. There's so many places I want to see. And can you go back one more bit? Yeah. So I'm not in a fixed position. I'm not in a fixed position. I really don't know where I will be as a person in my head, physically 5 years from now. But I like that about my life. I'm so good with that. So maybe here is where being single without a mortgage helped me, by the way. So that is a superpower. Let me tell you, no mortgage. So it's a really big superpower. So yeah, and I genuinely think just for me, the place I am, being single, independent, free, works for me. It does not mean it works for everybody, but now I have realized it really does work for me. So that's where I am. The next one, please. So one very critical thing that I would just wanted to share because of my journey. When I started trying to change basis feedback, and trust me, corporate world all across, whether it is India or Hong Kong or Germany, does all sorts of feedback, 360 feedback, peer feedback, boss feedback, this feedback, that feedback, customer feedback, every feedback. And if you listen to all the feedback, the first thing you realize is, oh my God, I'm bad. The second thing you realize is, oh my God, I'm so bad. And the third thing you realize is, let me quickly try and change and become the person my boss wants, my peer wants, my subordinate wants, my customer wants, my everybody wants. And then if you throw a spouse in the mix, my spouse wants. And then you sort of wake up and you go from, feeling confident, underconfident, incomplete, all at the same time. Two things. One, I have learned how to separate bias from actual feedback. The bigger thing I have learned, and this I have learned, maybe I spent a lot of time not knowing this, is not to take all feedback personally. Not all feedback is supposed to initiate change in you as a person, because there are certain things which make you who you are. For example, I am a sort of perfectionist, and I can push my team really hard. But that, and I'm paranoid about deadlines and stuff like that. But that is also what makes me succeed. So if I tone that down, I become a version of myself which I will not be able to live with. So I will not be able to perform to my the capacity or the level I want to perform at. So the idea is not to take all feedback personally and try and change it. I don't know how many of you face this, but I face imposter syndrome every single day of my life. And I get very scared if someone tells me I'm successful. I'm like, oh my God, they're going to find out I'm just the village idiot hanging around here trying to make my way. So trust me, this is what I feel every single day. I'm like, oh my God, do they know how stupid I am? So I could be sitting in a boardroom presenting the figures for the year and feel, oh my God, I hope they don't find out today that I'm stupid. So I have also realized this is a lot of baggage from generations of, sort of maybe bias, discrimination, or the person I am. Fact of the matter, it is exists. It raises its head every single time I'm doing something. I've learned how to manage that. Does it go away one morning miraculously? No. And Malavika, I must get in touch with you if you have some way of helping me ensure this monster goes away. But I have gotten better at dealing with it, much better at dealing with it. Most of all, and coming back to leaving corporate after 20 years, I have understood what makes me happy. No, I'm not this exuberant, cheerful person who wakes up with a smile on her face and thinks there is rainbows popping out from everywhere. No, I just know what makes me happier than what makes me unhappier. And once I have realized that, I've gone to look for situations, places, workplaces, and people which fit into that world I want to create for me. And I think that has worked for me. And that is why I've moved back. I live here, I travel all the time. Just let's ignore COVID. So, this is what I've done. This is all what I have done. I tried to find myself. By the way, you would know Malavika. I went for Vipassana meditation and, did that. I thought that practice suited me more than any other practice that sort of I've done in my life. I'm not very disciplined, so I need to go back to a refresher. But I realized art gives me joy. My God, I suck at it most times, but it gives me so much joy. I love sketching, painting, doing anything, just picking up a marker and drawing on every surface. It gives me joy. I also sought help. I have a shrink. I think she is more important to my life than a lot of other things. Let me tell you, most other things money can buy. She helps me sort out my issues. I genuinely think that if we have our mind entangled, professionals who are trained to do that help us most. At least with me, that worked. So I would strongly recommend seeking help from a professional. I am, again, living proof that it works. And finally, I realized what job or work works for me. What is the kind of people I like to work for? I do not like, for example, I never like to work with people who are, who overmanage situations, who are micromanagers. That's not to say micromanagement is bad. That's just to say I understand that I don't work well with people like that. So I actively seek out situations and people to work with who are not of a certain type or who are of a certain type. I actually walked away from a really good job, as people used to call it. Sorry, go back. Because the person I was working with, he was individually very successful, excellent human being, but just not the person I would like to spend time, well, 14 hours a day with working. So I walked away. I like to work with people I derive energy from. I know it sounds good. I walked away from situations, but now I know who I like to work with. I actively say no to clients. And the team who sometimes freelances and works for me actually needs to tell me that people don't say no to clients, but I do. So, yes, I do that. Does that have a price? that I pay? Yes, there is a price. There is a price where I do not get to earn that money, or I do not get to probably interact with people who are very good anyway. But it has a benefit to me, which is that I am more, for want of a better word, I'm more at peace with myself. So I'd rather choose that every single day over not being in peace or earning a little more money. So this is how I try and govern my life, at least for the last 4 or 5 years. It's really, really made me happier. Again, not supremely happy, jumping with joy every single time, but happier, more happy than unhappy. And I love it, and I'm loving it. I just wish I had known. I like to say I'm 29, but I wish I had known this 20 years ago. I would have spent, a nicer work life sort of situation. But this is who I am. And if this means being confident, then that's who I am. So in the end, I would just the last slide, and I'd just like to say, I love these two lines. And this is actually what confidence means to me. But one day she asked what was best for herself instead of trying to please everyone else. So that's just who I am. That's it. This is it, my life. A quick summary of my life. I'm very open to questions. I hope I didn't bore anyone. And that's just it.
Kristen, do you want to?
I'll just unmute myself now. You certainly didn't bore anyone. You are absolutely fabulous. I know you don't like hearing it. Yeah, Jessica and I were trying to not get tearful, and I'm going to get it again over that poem. So I've put a little thing. Can we please have the poet name, because we'd like to share that with our
I'm going to quickly send you guys a link.
Yeah. Okay. And I have a question when you're ready. Yeah, you're it was a fantastic presentation.
Yes, tell me. I'm just Becky Hemsley's Breathe. I've just going to put a link.
Okay, thank you so much. You're so authentic, and I think that probably struck with everybody, the things you said. And I think a lot of us feel similar. Like, I'm in my 40s now, and I wish I knew all the things now that I knew, when I was in my 20s. I would have, Becky Helmsley, thank you. You're absolutely right. And thank you for sharing all your insights with us. We've got a question here.
Yes.
Because you said you did receive feedback that was critical, how did you respond when you had that feedback? Did you talk to anyone about it? And if you did, how did you have a difficult conversation like that?
This is a very, very nice question. Who asked that? And thank you. Yeah, Jess, I'll tell you, I've received critical feedback a lot of times, let me tell you. First time I ever received it, and I will never forget that moment. First time I ever received, I know the room, I know the person, I can visualize it right now. And I received it, and I was just quiet. I just didn't know what to say. In fact, the person who was giving me that feedback must have asked me a couple of times, I don't want to hurt you, but this is what it is, and blah, blah, blah. And, this is what people are saying, and et cetera, et cetera. I just didn't know how to process it. Later, many shrink sessions later, I realized I tended to take all feedback personally. So I had this self-image, and the first time I got that negative feedback, oh my God, it was literally like a stonemason chipping off my confidence and saying, Sevantika, you're sort of a failure. And I'm very quick to brand myself a failure. And that was the first time I got negative feedback. I kid you not. I must have been silent the whole time through. In fact, my boss then had to call me back an hour later to ask me if I'm feeling all right. I mean, I just didn't know how to process that feedback. Cut to maybe 5-6 years later, I was slightly more confident because I had so-called confident because I had achieved a little bit of commercial and corporate success. I received negative feedback. And I actually countered everything that was told to me. So I had this defense mechanism, and I was like, no, but I'm not like that. Let me give you 4 instances, blah, blah, blah. Oh, when did you notice this? No, this is taken out of context. I'm actually this, blah, blah, blah. So I was not listening. I was countering because I thought it was all wrong. And how can they say this to me? cut to a decade later. And when I received that feedback, I actually thanked the person, said, thank you, this is a valid input. I don't know if I will be able to absorb or assimilate or even act on most of it. I take that as your perception. And I will be cognizant of that next time I have an interaction, because it was a specific context in terms of my interactions with certain kind of people. So this is how I changed. The feedback, let me tell you, altered slightly, but I realized that feedback was coming because I was a certain personality type. And I don't do well with, sort of leading large sales teams. That's why I do work, the kind of work that I do. And every time I went out of my comfort zone to lead large sales teams, I used to get that feedback. I realized that, I changed the kind of work I did. And immediately I was actually receiving less negative feedback. I was supposedly more successful. So I had not changed a lot of myself. I had just changed the kind of situations I was better in. But to answer your question, my response to negative feedback changed as I matured. Again, want of a better word. Does that help, Jess? Did I answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. And I like that saying, I take that as your perception. It's interesting you say that, because Jessica and I were on a webinar last night, and someone said, when a man enters a room, he'll often say, thank you for waiting, whilst a woman will go in and say, sorry, I'm late. And we're always apologizing. And I feel that often men will respond in more of a way like, okay, I understand what you're saying there, but I think this, whilst we would just say, we would take it personally. And I know exactly what you're saying there. And it isn't personal, it is work, but it's very hard to separate the two. I completely agree. Yes. I have a private question sent through. Says, finding my fit, I work with a department full of microaggression and toxic positivity. I am 20 years older than the faculty leads and not from the same cultural national background. I can't leave. I am currently the only breadwinner in my family, one child in the middle of A-levels. Any suggestions for coping, getting through a year and a half?
So I was in a situation very similar in 2000 and just after the Lehman crisis, 2008, which was a very bad time for banking. And I can relate that experience. And, there was no banking jobs. It was a swear word. The fact that you were a banker, you were worse than a murderer. So that was a time I had rent, I had bills to pay. I was the sole breadwinner for myself. And I was in a toxic workplace. And I must share this with you. I was in a place where my boss was in a relationship with my subordinate. So you can imagine the toxicity. It was the perfect storm of toxicity. So I feel for you, whoever you are. I don't know what you're going through, but this is what I went through. And I stayed for almost 2 years post that. And the first 6 months were really bad. I had severe heartburn, acidity. I was not sleeping well. So, Malavika, I saw, you said your physical, mind, body, spirit. I could feel that. Everything I went through, even the small things which were unsaid at workplace used to impact me. And it had a direct impact on my body. I had a bad back, worse back than I ever had. I started graying back then. Then, by the way, for me, what worked, I can tell you, I found meditation, because there was no way I could get out of that physical situation. I needed to mentally get out of that. That was the only way I could deal with that situation. And it was an amazing process to be able to shut down and completely try and clean your mind. Trust me, it is so difficult to empty your mind. It is, I think, the most difficult thing to do. But I tried. I think I must have. By the way, I started getting panic attacks that time. So whoever you are, I feel you. I started getting panic attacks. I started carrying a brown paper bag. I used to get panic attacks in the middle of the street, literally in the middle of the street. So I found meditation helped. I also found a little bit, I started it because of my back, my core alignment and some fitness regime. I don't look it, but I'm okay as far as fitness is concerned. So those are the two things which I think helped. Eventually, you know what helped? Eventually, what really did help was me getting out of that situation because it was a toxic situation. But I really needed to walk through those 2 years. All I can tell you, and it sounds just like words, whoever you are, it will be fine. You will survive. God knows I did. Find your something which sort of mentally takes you out of that situation because you physically can't. Just find that. And I've never been a gym person or running, but I have a friend who was in a similar situation and has started running. And he swears by it. He says it does a meditative as well as a physical, and it sort of does the whole mind, body, spirit thing. He swears by it. I swear by meditation. Find your thing. I could never run, right? But find your thing, take yourself mentally out while constantly looking for ways to get physically out. That's the only thing I can tell you. But all I can tell you, you survive and how. Look at me. So I hope I've helped with that answer. Thank you, Jessica.
This has been amazing. And I think we're constantly hearing things about being self-aware. So that's one big takeaway, is being self-aware. And it's really inspiring to hear, Savantika, what you said about knowing yourself, and then rather than constantly questioning ourselves, which we do a lot as women. We're always people pleasing, we're second guessing. But rather than doing that, finding out what works for me, and what will be the best for me. And the poem you shared, it's really, really inspiring. um
It's called Breathe. Seriously, it's just called Breathe. It's
wow.
amazing. It's just called Breathe.
If anybody has any questions, just feel free to raise your hand or just unmute yourself and just ask away.
Could I just add to Savantika's awesome response to the first question is, I think some other things in addition to what Savantika said, you could try is that, as she said, you can't change that situation in the moment. You have to be in that environment. But there are ways that you could try to nurture yourself a bit more. So when you're home away from that environment, do things to really nurture yourself. So there's aspects of self-compassion that are both yin and yang. So the yin aspect of self-compassion is when we kind of go home and we put on the music that we like, or make ourselves a nice meal, or nurture ourselves or in some way. And then the yang aspect of self-compassion is when we actually need to be a little bit more motivated in the situation, where we do have to kind of either speak up for ourselves or speak our truth, set boundaries, and keep ourselves protected. So there you can Google this. It's the yin and yang of self-compassion, and there's nice practices and different examples it can give you to keep caring for yourself in that place that unfortunately you can't leave at the moment. And then in the workplace, when you do go there, maybe you can create a space at your desk that have little reminders of things that keep you motivated and inspired, so that you have like a special place of nurturing that's directly actually in that workplace, that make you just feel nurtured and at home and safe and loved. So little reminders that could help you physically in that space, and then of course self-care practices that we spoke about before.
Thank you, Malavika, for that. It's been really amazing talking to everybody. I see Jessica's hand is up. Jessica, do you have a question or a comment? Please go ahead.
You're on mute.
Yeah, I have, can you hear me? I have a question for Sevantika.
Of
I
course.
love how you said you start to make choices about the kind of situations you can be in, the kind of people. I love what you said, how you derive energy from, like you like to work with people you can derive energy from. And I'm just curious, well, what kind of leader are you then? Can you give us a description? Like, how do you lead your team? How do you choose your team? Or if they are not the kind of people you work well, how do you work with them?
You know, Jessica, I always tell people I work with, as well as people I meet for the first or second, or who don't know me that well. I'm like blue cheese. You either love it or you're going to hate it. There you go. So there is no middle ground with me. It is blue cheese all the way. So, so that's the short, quick answer. But no, to answer your question, the kind of person I am, I'm a perfectionist. I have worked with people who've actually switched jobs with me and are still working with me 20 years on, even as freelancers. But then there are people who could not work with me. So, and I genuinely, truly believe there are no bad people, of course, except let's not get, rapists and murderers in this conversation, but there are no bad people. They're just bad fitments. You just need to realize that earlier on and sort of move on. That's the fundamental belief that I have. But as a person, I like to work with people who are complementary in their work profile. For example, I'm a person who likes to trust but verify in the initial stages and then completely trust the person. People who want micromanagement are also not the people I like to work with. So I'm not a leader who micromanages. I'm not a leader who likes to repeat the same things multiple times. And I like to work with experts. I like to work with confident people who are experts in their field. And above all, really, I always tell anybody who works with me, there are two things in life which make a professional: skill and will. Given a certain skill, you only hire for will and enthusiasm. That's it. You can develop. See, I don't do nuclear science. I don't do rocket launches, and I'm no Elon Musk. At the end of the day, what I do is a skill. You need to have a base level. But once you have that, if you have the will to do something exciting and make your life more meaningful, come work with me. We'll have great fun, because the only reason I work is fun. The only reason. I love the joy of creation. That's why I'm an artist. That's why I work in marketing. I love to see brands. I love to see logos. I love to see stuff out there. So if you like that, we're going to have fun. That's it. It's going to be more fun days than not so fun days. That's the kind of person. But like I said, Jessica, blue cheese. Always.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm making yeah, that was a great question, Jessica. And I'm making a mental note of going back to this recording, because with Malavika and Sevantika, there's so many nuggets of wisdom that, I want to hear again. So this is great. Do we have any more questions?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Jess. But, I must thank you for taking out time, because the most valuable asset and the gift you have is time, and the best gift you can give someone is time. So I'm very grateful that you gave me time. Thank you.
Well, we are so grateful you gave your time all the way in India and making the effort to get up really early to do this for us. I mean, we can't, this is what I love about WomenEd, is that people are just so generous. And I don't think I've met any other group that feels the same. And we'd love you to join if you can, and you ever go on Twitter. But we're just so grateful to have you, and same with Malavika as well. It's been so wonderful. I wanted to share one comment. I know I'm not doing the talk, but this is what someone said to me when I had really bad criticism once, and it was on my work too, which I'm very perfectionist, very particular about, and it really resonated. So someone said to me, look at who gave you that feedback. If there's someone you respect and value, take it. If you don't, ignore it. And I thought that was the one thing that really resonated to me. If I really think they are great at what they do, I will follow or I will listen. But if I don't, then don't take it. So I hope that helps people who are being criticized. And I was also in, not my workplace now, but previously a toxic workplace for 2 years. Like the person that posted was similar thing. I couldn't really find a way out. To be honest, it was my my partner who was a massive rock for me, and it made us grow really, really close. But it's a horrible situation. I also really feel for that person, and I hope the 1.5 years goes really quickly. But that's, I think, another thing you just have to think about it as it's a short term, and unfortunately you do learn a lot, and you learn what to not put up with next time, and what you look for in your next workplace, certainly. Yeah. But yeah, can we just give you a little clap? And for Malavika as well. Thank you so much, guys. And I think we will close there. I think everybody wants to get their lunch and whatnot. But we'll be back on at 1 o'clock with our speakers from WomenEd Spain, talking about how to build connections inside and outside of the workplace that also supports your well-being. I think friends are one of the most important things you can have, especially if you live abroad. They kind of become your family. So we'll leave you there, guys. And thank you so much to our speakers. Oh, Jaya, yeah.
Yeah, just a bit of housekeeping before we go. So on the chat, you will find Sevantika has been very generous. She has left her email there. Malavika, would you, if you don't mind, you can share what's the best way to get in touch with you if somebody wanted to get in touch with you guys. We have also left our Twitter handles, mine, Jess's, and Jessica's, as well as WomenEd Taiwan. If you're on Twitter, please connect with us. I've also left the WomenEd Taiwan email if you have some feedback to give us or anything you would want to share. We would be really happy to hear from you. So please do get in touch with us or the speakers if you want. And thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for being here. It's so great to connect, and we look forward to hearing from you at the end. So we'll get back after lunch, and then from 1:50, I'm losing track of time here. From 1:50 on, we will have a sharing time, and we would love to hear, what well-being means to you and any experiences or anything you want to share. Right, that's it from me, Jess.
Okay, great. I think what I'll do is I'll stop this recording, and then I'll stop, I'll come out of the room and then come back in, if that's okay with everybody, rather than leaving it all on, because we have some video presentations. I think I should check them. So if that's okay, if you can come back in via the same link at 1 o'clock, that would be super, everybody.